My talk today is called Empathizing with Steam, How Buyers See Your Game. So about a year ago, I released my first game on Steam. And when you're going through the process and you're filling out all the forms, you get this store page form. And it's just this giant blank box that you have to fill out that describes, it just prompts you to say about this game. And I had no idea what to put in this box. So I made up something. I just threw words at it basically. And my game released and it didn't sell very well. It was very positive. I got a lot of good reviews, but it just didn't sell. And I just wondered, what the hell are Steam shoppers actually looking for? And so I took this really, really extreme, basically, step to do, which is I just started watching people buy games on Steam. I found people online who are willing to let me do a one-on-one screen share through Discord. And I just gave them the simple prompt, go shop for stuff on Steam. I just want to see what you do. And what I did was I did this for 15 hours, not straight. I did this across several different Steam shoppers. And I really got a good sense of what they're looking for. And so what I'm going to show you in this talk is what I learned in those 15 hours. I'm going to show you how to get good screenshots, good videos. I'm going to show you that I found some really strange behavior, that players are incredibly genre focused and they really know what they like and what they don't like. And then I'm going to show you some tricks that I learned during Steam sales and how to make your game more attractive. And then the other thing that I did was I found out that their friends really play a big role in what games they pick and which ones they don't. And so I'm going to show you how to kind of maximize that and really get good word of mouth based on your Steam page and just in general marketing. Okay, so there's going to be 5 parts to this talk. I'm going to talk about the methodology that I used and why I did it. I'm going to show you how to make your Steam page that sells, and I'm going to show you the steps that a typical user is going to go through when they're looking at Steam. I'm going to show you how to know your genre and why that's so important, how incredibly important it is. And then 4th, I'm going to show you how to manage a Steam sale. It can be a little crazy. And then 5th, I'm going to show you how to turn those wish listers into actual buyers, because you can get stuck in the cart and not get out. So I'm going to show you all of this today. So let's start with the methodology. I'm an indie game designer, but I'm also a marketing consultant. So in addition to making games, I also help other companies sell their own games and make their marketing just as tight as can be. So I have a real interest in this and a lot of history with helping people make better games and marketing them better. My first game was one-screen platformer on Steam. And before I got into games and before I started becoming a marketing consultant, I was a UX designer. And this is actually a picture that I took. It's at an airport. I used to work for an airline. And what I would do is I would go and watch how people actually use the products that I worked on. Because as a designer, we were trained over and over again, do not start designing until you understand what the user does. And so here I am watching some folks get boarded on a flight to Chicago. And this same approach is what I applied to Steam and understanding how the Steam users shop on Steam. And the reason that's so important and why UX designers learn that is because the users of your software or Steam are not like us as designers. Being a designer or a game developer is a very specific field, and we have different notions of what is good and what's bad than the average consumer. And so it's really important that you actually step in and empathize with your users by watching how they actually use things. And so instead of the airline being my client, Steam is my client. So I treated it the same way I would when I was working in industry. And so what I did was I recruited users and I set up a one-on-one screen share for about a half an hour per user. And I just gave them a very simple prompt. I said, what do you do when you start Steam? And then I just let them go. And the way that we do it in UX is you try and shut up. You do not want to influence the user too much. So we do something called talk aloud. And basically I give them a simple prompt that says, just say everything that you're thinking. And that really makes sure that people, when they click on something, I know why they clicked on it. Or when they stop to hover, I know why they're hovering. And one of the participants said, you mean like a Let's Play of Steam? And I was like, that's exactly it. It was so hard in UX to get people to talk aloud, but gamers understand this concept of narrating everything that they do. So it really wasn't very hard to get people talking. And over the course of the study, I used 15 participants. The color coding just shows the different phases of the tests that I used. So I'm going to keep them anonymous because that's part of our agreement. I didn't want to bring everybody, public about who they were. So I just color code them and name them with a letter. I actually did 3 phases to this test. So there's a phase during a normal Steam day, just no sales or anything. Then during a Halloween sale, which was a seasonal sale. And then phase 3 was something called a diary study, and it lasted for 3 whole months. So I'll show you all of these. Again, the colors just kind of indicate the people that I used in every study. So for example, participant A was used in all 3 of them, and that's why I color coded it as orange, because I originally met that participant in phase 1, and then they just carried through to the other ones. So the colors indicate which phase they're in. I also recruited worldwide. I really tried to get a good broad swath of the population. I got every continent except for Africa and Australia. Unfortunately, Africa doesn't use Steam very much. I really tried to find some folks, but it's really hard to find them. And then this kind of matches demographic how Steam is made up anyways, just by the percentages. I also overrepresented female gamers. This was to really get a broad swath of use cases. There's some estimates it's about 18 to 5% of Steam's audience is female, but I got it up to almost 50%. I had 6 identified females in my participant list. Also did 18 and over. That's because I made everybody sign a disclosure form, so that just to have an agreement that it's okay for me to share this data with all of you and for me to record them. So I wanted to make sure there was 18 plus, so there's no reason, I didn't want to have to recruit parents to get their kid to sign this form or anything. So, and most of my audience anyway for indie games is over 18 anyway. I also made sure that all the participants had over 50 games, and that's because I'm an indie game developer, and the people who buy indie games buy a lot of games. That's just because most players who only play maybe a Skyrim or a CSGO just don't have that many games. So I really wanted to target an indie buying crowd. And you're probably wondering, like, 15 people, that's it? What about sample size? And so I know that's a very critical thing for quantitative research, which is opposite of qualitative research, is what I did. With quantitative research, you're really trying to identify giant data sets and prove perfect correlation using Spearman's row and all these giant numbers. Qualitative research is the other side. And what you're trying to do is a breadth of experiences. So for example, here's a very famous industrial designer named Pat Moore. And what she did was she was trying to study how the elderly use the world. And so what she did, she dressed herself up as an older person. She bound her hands, wore glasses that made it hard for her to see. And she just explored the world and figured out where things were difficult for somebody who was elderly or who would be elderly like that. And her research, and she was a test case of one, led to things like the OXO Good Grips. She helped design the OXO Good Grips, those kitchen tools that have nice giant grips that are easier to use for people who might have mobility problems. And again, those just were insanely popular. And it was all because she took a qualitative approach to design. Similarly, another industrial designer named Doug Dietz, he designed the CRT, the imaging machines at hospitals. And he designed this whole thing, all the engineering was sound, and they put it in the hospital, and it worked perfectly. And then one day he went off to the hospital just to see how it was used. And turns out it was in the pediatric ward. And when he sat outside the pediatric ward and he saw folks coming in, he noticed that the parents and the people who were going to be using it and the children were just not very excited about using this machine. And it wasn't until he actually went and observed real users using his device that he realized that it was just impractical. And so what he did was he redesigned his CRT machine, his imaging machine, so that it was a lot easier and just more appealing. And so even if you can't get a huge sample set, when you're doing qualitative research, you're really trying to get a breadth of research. And Nielsen Norman, who is part of this research group, they do a lot of UX design and UX research. And what they say is discovering the unexpected is part of the reasons you do this type of research. Basically, you don't know what you do know. You don't know what you don't know until you do qualitative research. And the idea is that you should always pair qualitative with quantitative, because quantitative can prove definitively a couple single points, but you could be proving the wrong one. And the qualitative research is a great way to kind of look back and see a broad range of ways that you can do research. And when you're doing qualitative research, the most important thing is something called saturation. And saturation is basically, I'm looking not to confirm the same thing multiple times. What I'm trying to do is find all the edge cases and all the possible paths that people take. So for example, there's kind of a good rule of thumb. After about 6 or 7 interviews, you start to notice the same things being said over and over again. And that's the saturation taking place. And I definitely saw that. And so what I'm trying to do is, and that's why I overrepresented women in the study, is I was trying to find all the different aspects that could that could be the use cases that people have on Steam. So qualitative, again, is a good way to do springboard for quantitative research. And I really hope that people who watch this video or read my talk later will actually take this as an inspiration to go do more quantitative studies based on what I've initially found here. So the important thing about qualitative research is you're not going to hear me make judgments about how many things happen. So for instance, if I saw something happen with 7 of my participants out of 15, I can't say, oh, this is going to happen 46% of all Steam is going to do this. I'm not going to make those value judgments of how often it occurs, but I can say I've seen this happen or this is a common workflow. So that's just a way to understand the way to interpret qualitative data. Okay, I could go into how I recruited. I'm not going to do that today. You can read more about that on my website. I did a whole article just on how I did the methodology for this study. So, but let's just get into the good stuff here, all right? So I'm going to show you how to make a Steam page that sells. There's basically 3 steps here. You got to attract them, tell them what your genre is, and then build trust with them. That's what your Steam page is going to do, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, I'm going to go rapid fire through this. If this is way too fast to take notes, on my website, I actually put together a special document. It's just a checklist of things you should do on your Steam page before you hit the publish button. So it's a nice form that you can use. It's just kind of like a guide. Okay, so there's 8 steps that people go through when they're looking to see whether they should wishlist your game. They browse, hover, click to inspect the page, go to your Steam page. Then they view the game's media, they check tags, they skim the short description, not do a full read. They totally skip over the long description, and then they check for the negative reviews. And I'm going to show you step by step how that works. Okay, so the browse, they look at the Steam page, look around for any icons or any of these capsule images. And if they find one that's interesting, they do what I call the hover. And here's a video that I took. This is just an animated GIF of somebody who's doing this hover. And what she's looking for when she does this is she's just watching these images cycle. There's a 4-image cycle that goes on. And she's looking to see what the genre of the game, and if it looks like something that she's going to want to actually interact with and maybe possibly buy. And she's looking at the user tags, and she's also looking at the number of reviews. And if she likes what she sees in those 4 images, she's going to do a click. Now, that is super important to get that tooltip. And this was one of the greatest revolutions that I had when I was doing this research was that tooltip. And the thing that's so important is that tooltip only appears when they hover over the image. And so you want your capsule image to be super attractive. I call it a mouse magnet. For some reason, this capsule is an excellent mouse magnet. Anytime I was watching participants browse Steam and the remnant came up, that mouse went straight to this image. I don't know what it is about this image. There's something weird about it. I don't know if it's some like Cthulhu magic going on, but everybody hovered on this image. And it doesn't matter the genre. Even people who didn't like shooters hovered over this image. I think it's just the mysteriousness of it, just the interesting face that guy's got. There's just a bunch of things that are interesting. So really test your capsule image to make sure it turns into a mouse magnet. The other thing is the hover has 4 images that cycle. So you really have to be cognizant of those 4 images. And this is totally just totally unclear unless you've studied this stuff. This is a picture of the Steamworks UI. This is my game. The Steam UI does not tell you that the first 4 images are the most important that are going to show up in this hover. So you just have to know that. So there's no indicator here. Just make sure you prioritize the top 4 images on Steamworks to be the 4 that you want to see in that hover cycle. And what kind of images should you put in that cycle? It's got to be really descriptive of your game and the actions they're going to be taking. For instance, here's a game that's never going to be on Steam. It's Breath of the Wild. Now, I picked these 4 images because I think they're cool, but I don't think these would be good for your first 4 images. Look at them. They're all showing combat. They're showing you boss battles. A user who doesn't know what Breath of the Wild is and is just browsing might interpret this as like some sort of action RPG. It could be a Souls-like. It could be a roguelike action roguelike. It's just unclear what you do in this game. It just looks like you're just doing battling. A better 4-image selection would be to show the 4 key elements of the game. So for instance, for Breath of the Wild, you do a lot of open world exploration. Then in the top right, there's some crafting and inventory management. On the bottom right, you do some puzzle solving. And then you do some battles and some boss fights. But that's just one element. And so when these 4 images cycle, you get a better grasp of what the game is. So really be cognizant of the 4 images you pick. You don't want to repeat yourself, and you want to show a good set of the verbs of the game. The other thing that people check are the user tags. Now, the user tags, you only get 5 on the hover. So you got to make sure those first 5 are just describing your genre perfectly. I see a lot of things where it's like indie. That indie tag is worthless. That does not tell people what the genre is. So you want to make sure that your top 5 are. The other ones are like female protagonist. That's a noble tag to have, but it doesn't tell the genre. And they can probably distinguish that it identify that's a female main character from the capsule and screenshots. So it's worthless as a tag. The other thing that tags do for folks is they identify things that they might not like about the genre. For instance, people who don't like difficult games, if they see Metroidvania as a tag, that's a identifier for them that this is a difficult game. Even if they don't play Metroidvania, they know from history's sake that Metroidvanias are hard. So they will actually move away from the game if it's a Metroidvania. Now, that's to say, if you do have a Metroidvania, please put that tag in. That's important. You just have to be aware that there's reasons people do not want that game. So if they like what they see on the hover, they're going to click on the capsule image. And here at this point, they want your game to be awesome. If they've clicked, they think your game is neat. They're on your side. They're looking for things to rule them out of this game. Okay, and so once they're on your Steam page, they're looking at 4 big things. They're looking to the art, then they look at the tags, then they look at the short description, and then they skip all the way down and they look just at the reviews, specifically the negative reviews. Now, when they're looking, this is an actual animated GIF of somebody looking at the media. Now you'll watch, they click real fast and for the screenshots. They're not watching the trailer first, they're looking at the screenshots. And what they're looking for is gameplay. They want to see what you are doing, what the verbs of the game are. And so they click through them really, really fast. This guy's actually going slow because he's trying to explain what he's doing. Then they might go to the trailer. And when they're looking at the video, they're skipping ahead really fast. Watch, he's skipping ahead right there. Now, I have some friends who make trailers, and they were a little afraid of this. And the main thing is, I'm not saying to ditch trailers that have any form of cinematics. I think those should be still made. You just don't want to include them on your Steam page. They're great for YouTube to have rich story elements, but for Steam, they just want to see the action. They want to see the verbs of the game. So cut out anything that isn't you actually playing the game. No big intro wind-ups, no slow panning environment shots. They just want to see the action. Okay, so this is how not to do a trailer. This is an actual video.
Only cinematics. I want to see some goddamn gameplay.
You can hear the frustration in this guy's voice.
Jesus. Let me see gameplay. Oh, that's the gameplay. All right. Where's the UI?
Why do you want to see the UI?
To get to know more of the... What's it called? I mean, whenever you see the UI, you'll be able to, like, at least assume some of the portions of the game, right? Like, how would you be playing it and things like that. But this one doesn't tell me anything. It's just full.
He was so frustrated. He did a little bit of swearing there. I had to beep that out. Sorry, folks. And what he's frustrated about is he just wants to see gameplay. And one of the surprising things is he also wants to see UI. When I was originally designing pages for Steam, I thought they just want to see a majestic, beautiful screen. Nobody comes to see menus. They actually do want to see menus. And the reason is it helps them identify the genre. If you can see a UI, you can identify the genre. Look at this one right here. 2 bars, some characters, and a number timer in the middle. Obviously, that's a Street Fighter game, a 2D Street Fighter. A nice reticle, a gun in the bottom, some health, some bullets. That's a first-person shooter. Easy. Just 2 anime characters and a dialogue box. Obviously, a visual novel. The UI really tells you the genre better than any description or anything else. So show UI in your screenshots. I would have never guessed, but it is so important for players to be able to identify the genre. After they look at the media, they go over to the tags. I already talked about that. A lot of them will expand the tags to really look for them. You have the control as a developer to really pick your tags by eliminating them. Again, remove indie, remove anything that doesn't tell genre. The most important thing that they're looking for is identifying the genre. Now the short description. Here's another animated GIF of a person who's shopping here. They're just skimming it. And what they're looking for are verbs. They're trying to identify what do you do in the game, not the setting. They don't care about characters, story. They don't care any about the fluffy stories. Even people who love games that are story-based, in fact, this participant does, they don't care about story at this point. They're just trying to identify what do you do in the game. In fact, I heard a lot of people when it was a big story-based short description, they'd go, blah, 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 blah. What do I actually do? They actually said blah, blah, blah. They don't want to see a big story or lore dump. Stick to the verbs, stick to the actions of what you're doing in the game. Okay, the long description, everybody skipped this thing. So I'm going to skip it too. You could put a recipe in there for whatever I know. It doesn't matter. Okay, the negative reviews. They'd always skip down. And it's not that they hate you. I was really afraid when I started reading negative reviews when they started coming in for my game, but it doesn't matter. Have heart. If it stresses you out to read negative reviews, don't worry. Because the only thing that players who want your game are looking for are the reasons this person had a negative response the same reason I don't like games. So if they're a story-based player, and if they care about the story, they're going to look for reviews that maybe say, hey, the story is bad, the characters are two-dimensional, the ending sucks. That's what they care about. But if it's an action-based player, somebody who cares about FPSs or good action, they are looking more for things like maybe frame rate or how the character or how the maybe enemies behave, how the AI is. They're really looking forward to see what they match up with. And we all hate these type of negative reviews that just are like one line, nopes. We tweet about them, we complain about them. Don't worry, don't waste any emotional energy on them. The reason is shoppers hate these type of reviews too because they don't give them the information that they're looking for. They're really looking to see why don't you like this game. So if you care about this, don't put it outside of your mind. I came back with a nice warm feeling for negative reviews after studying users. It doesn't matter that much. Okay, so after all that, if they like you, they put you on your wish list. Everything that I just described took 90 seconds. Let me go through and let's actually watch somebody do this in 90 seconds.
Oh, that looks really cute.
Side note, she is
and
in
I might
a
hover
Steam
here
Labs
for a second because the
section.
little video is playing.
And that's why there's no hover. So
This
that's why
looks
you're
so
seeing a little bit of
stylized
a
and
video.
adorable. It's $5. Lost Robots is a new prequel chapter, blah, blah, blah. Let's click it. Let's look at it.
Did you hear the blah, blah, blah? She said blah, blah, blah. So now she's looking at the page.
And we'll go through the picture. Oh, look how cute that is. Come
Super
on
fast
now.
through the images. Super fast, right?
What's the tag?
Skip the trailer. Looked at the
Indie
tags.
adventure noir, point and click single player, story rich cash. What's it? Oh, it's from the Bear With Me people. Oh yeah, Bear With Me, the Lost Robots. I have one of the Bear With Me's. This is so cute. When did this come out? July 31st. Let's take a look at the reviews.
Skip the long description. Did you see that?
Curators. Anybody on my curator list? No. Why don't you like it? I'll always look for the negative ones. Looking forward to playing this. Lone chapter. So it's very short. Too short, wanted more. Okay. Well, I mean, big deal. It's $5, guys. What do you want?
See, she hates negative reviews just as much as we do.
It's adorable. It's point and click. It's a known group, Bear With Me series. I know that series. Yeah, that's adorable.
Again, that took 90 seconds. It's really a fast process that happens. You got to make sure your page is dead on, really easy to navigate. So let's look at part 3. And I call this know your genre, because the most important thing is understanding what genre your game is and putting it straight up front so that users know your game's genre. Okay, a big misconception that people new to marketing is they think that it's like a used car salesman. Like when you're doing marketing, you're trying to like convert somebody. You actually are not. What you're trying to do is find your tribe, find the people who would be predisposed to like your game, and proving to them that you are exactly their type of game. And then what you're basically doing is this sort of process. Now, I put these shapes in to represent games that people like, that maybe a person like. I only like triangle-shaped games or pentagon-shaped games. I hate octagon-shaped games. And then when they look at your Steam page, what they're doing is they're comparing your game to see if it matches their predisposed interests. And if it does, great, they're going to buy it. But if your Steam page is kind of this amorphous dog's breakfast of a conglomeration that's impossible to identify, it's not like every part is going to do it. They're actually going to compare. They can't determine if it is something they like or if it's not. And if they can't determine what it is, they're just going to toss it out. You have to be very absolutely clear what your genre is. So I'm going to show you, this is what I did was, anytime they came to a page, I just shut up and just let them speak. What you're going to see is a video of people looking at a Steam page for the first time. There's no video because I wanted just to hear and to read what they say.
It's like Super Meat Boy, but with a little bit of 3D or something.
This game looks very similar to Civilization, so I think this is very interesting to me.
Ah, looks like FTL. I actually like these ones.
It looks like Mario Party. No, thank you.
Reminds me of Alien Isolation, a little bit, not quite.
Yeah, it seems to be some sort of like city building game, but on a skyscraper. Doesn't interest me specifically.
It feels kind of night in the woodsy. And I like that. Oh my god, the art style's so pretty.
A real-time RTS city builder. That's really the kind of combo I love to go for. I've loved games like The Settlers, Age of Empires.
One of the things that we as indies were always told is know your hooks, be as unique as possible, stand out, shatter genres. And guess what? They didn't mention the hooks as the reason they liked the game. They mentioned the things that were the same. I call them anchors. That's just a term I came up with. But people are very genre focused and they're not excited about what your hook is all the time. The first thing they want to know is, what genre is this? Cut it to me straight. What genre are you? And so what I'm trying to say is your store page should be stripping out everything that your game is not and being absolutely clear. Focus on appealing to the type of people who like your genre. Know the genre, the top game in your genre. Did you notice that they kept referencing other games? Like this guy who said, it's like an FTL, faster than light. I actually like those type of games. He didn't say, like an FTL, clone, get out of here. No, he was excited that this game was the same as an FTL. So don't think like that. We really need to start kind of going back and being sure of our genres. Okay, I'm gonna go quick tangent, and this is to show how important making the genre is. Now, I'm not making fun of this. I think this is really cool. So indie romance authors are some of the smartest marketers you've ever seen. And I really take a lot of inspiration from them. So we complain a lot because Steam has 35,000 games, right? It's indie apocalypse, games everywhere, right? Guess what? Indie romance authors are on Amazon, which has 8 million books. I'm not making that number up. That is literally, it's 8 million books on Amazon. They look at our 35,000 and they say, oh, you sweet child. So how the hell did they get their books sold when there's 8 million books? And some of these indie romance authors make $1 million a year. So let me show you. Okay, these are indie romance book covers. They all look the same to you, right? There's a very special language going on here. Okay, I'm just gonna walk you through this real fast and it's gonna be life-changing here. Okay, again, I'm not making fun of this. I think this is awesome. Okay, so there's a very subgenre of romance called Highland romance, romancing a Scotsman, I guess. If you see tartan, a sword, and a castle in the background, you know you got Highland romance. Shifter romance, which is like werewolves, but why stop at wolves? We got bears, dragons, tigers. If you see an animal behind a hunk, that is a shifter romance. There's another subgenre called reverse harem romance. Instead of multiple girls, it's multiple guys. You know that it's a reverse harem if there's a bunch of guys in the back. Love that name, nailing studs. Okay, so sub romance genres. They have even more specific tastes. And now, I'm not gonna tell you what this one is. You can just identify it because you've learned the language. What do we have? We have a wolf in the front, multiple studs in the back. What is that? Shifter, reverse harem. You know the genre. Okay, this one here, wolf in the back. The guy's wearing a kilt with a nice tartan and there's a castle in the background. Guess what this is? Shifter, Highlander. You know this romance. You figured it out. You know the language now. Now, I wrote a whole blog post on this and how to look at genres for romance novels. And this guy on Twitter was like, why even be indie anymore? And I get him. I get it. And those covers are cheesy. I'm not saying we literally need to do that, although those would be more fun, wouldn't it? But here's what to learn from romance indie authors. And this is the key point here. You got to know your audience's kinks. Learn what they are. Romance authors have studied the sub genre kinks of their audience. You should learn those too. And then they put those kinks straight up. They know the language that people are looking for so that it's crystal clear. Be absolutely clear with your genre so your shoppers will not have any questions. It's so that in an instant you can identify the genre. And like when you're coming off of a romance novel like Bridges of Madison County, you don't come to this book and say, maybe I'm into this. I think this might be my genre. You're either in for the bear or you're not. Get out of here. Okay, and so I think we should have similar confidence on our pages. Be very, very clear what you are and just put it straight up there. And we've got this actually in games right now. Look at these simulator games. You know what kind of simulators they are. You get a farming simulator, truck simulator, just in an instant. And look at the font. They're all very similar. You can tell the genre based on these signifiers that you've got to learn. Same thing. We used to make fun of these FPS covers that all look the same. But guess what? You know a first-person shooter cover the second you see it. We got to learn the tropes of your genre. Same thing with UI. When you see the UI, it is like those signifiers that are in the romance novels. You got to learn the tropes and the UI tropes of your genre. Okay, again, this goes back to coercion. You're not converting somebody to try and love that bear book. You are speaking to the audience who loves bear shifter romance. You want people to say when they see your game, this is the game that I've always wanted. Thank you for giving this wonderful gift to me. All right, sorry for that diversion. Let's get back to Steam. Okay, after all this, did that person buy that game that they bought on the wish that they added to the wish list? No, it was just a wish list. Then they closed the browser and they entered their day. When do they actually buy? Steam sales. If you have a game on Steam, you know most sales come in during the big seasonal sales. So I did part 2 of this, of the study, and I'm going to dip into how to manage a Steam sale. So I'm going to get you from how to get wish lists, how to go from their wish list to get you into the cart, how to manage your sales pricing so that it's appropriate for people who are shopping during a sale, and how to get from the cart to their library, how to actually get out of the cart and get purchased. So let's do part 1 of this. Okay, so for this next part, I had 6 participants, and I did a separate study that was only part of the Halloween sale. So what I did was I got everybody who was game to do another part. 3 of them were from the previous study. That's why they're orange. And then I found 3 new people who would do this screen share with me. And I told them, we got a Halloween sale coming up. Don't look at the store. If the Steam sale starts, don't talk to your friends about it. Please don't open Steam. Don't open those wish list emails that you get. I want to see your first impressions. So they were really good. And within the first 2 days of the Steam sale, I got the first impressions of people shopping on Steam during this Halloween sale. So here's how they navigate during a Steam sale. So they're usually a takeover page on Steam. They browse it just like they do with the hover, the mouse catchers, where they hold over, look at the hover, same deal, same rules apply. The next part is they go and they manage their wish list. So they switch over to the wish list page. I'm going to show you an actual video of somebody browsing their wish list during a Steam sale. Here goes.
For now, I'm going to buy discount.
Did you see it wasn't price, it was discount.
So these are the usual games. They are pretty much always on sale. I can buy this one.
How do you know they've always been on sale?
Because I have the notifications on, and whenever there's a game on sale, I get an email. And there are some games I already know by memory that they have been on sale a lot. For example, this one is on sale every time there's a sale. Every time. This one has been on sale a few times too. I added this one recently.
That wasn't a bad thing for him, by the way.
Remember it.
He kind of liked it.
I'm not really sure what's this and why it's in my wish list, but I'll look at it later.
Did you hear that last one? Not sure why this is on my wish list. I'll look at it later. I'd noticed over and over again, people don't remember why they have games on their wish list. It was like there were new games to them. We love as indies, we think, oh, as soon as somebody wish lists our game, they just think and pray every night that the sale gods are going to come down and put their game, that favorite game that I just wish list on sale. That is not happening. People have a lot of games on their wish list. They don't even remember how they got on there. So you have to treat your page during a sale, assuming that people who have not, they're coming for the first time, even if they've wish listed your game. So you want to make it look fresh, because I noticed a lot of people when they were going through their wish list and they'd look at the page, they wanted to make sure that it wasn't a dead game. So do stuff to kind of freshen up your page before a Steam sale. That includes like posting a little update alert, theme your capsule to the holiday, put a Santa hat on somebody, post an announcement that also will show up in the little banners of things that have recently been updated. Upload a small patch so that you can see that the game was recently updated, and comment in the forums. Make sure the forums are still active. So you really want to make your page kind of freshen it up for the big sales. Now, he joked about it. You heard him. He said, this game is always on sale. Well, guess what? He knew those games that were always on sale. He didn't know the game that was not on sale. I don't know the strategy. You might prefer to do fewer sales or more sales. I'll get to that later. It's up to you, your business model. But I got to tell you, when you do frequent sales, when every time there's a sale and your game's on sale, people become familiar with it. They're not going to have that aspect where they're going to say, what game was this again? How did this end up on my Steam page? Why am I wish listing this? You want to be familiar for your users. Okay, so how to do pricing? Let's look at this. A lot of the power users actually use second-party sites like GG Deals or SteamDB, and what they're looking for is something called historic low. Those sites will actually track if your game's dollar amount, it's not based on percentage, whether the dollar amount has never been reached before, because it kind of adds a fear of missing out element. So if you time your big Steam sales with the historic lows, you get a double punch. It's kind of like a multiplier effect, and people are more encouraged to do it. Also be careful, because historical lows are a limited resource. Once you go to one price point, you can't be a historic low again for that. So kind of stair step your price changes downwards. Don't go too deep too fast, because you miss out on a whole bunch of historic lows. They'll also check your history. Those third-party sites will actually show these little histograms. So they will see, how often does this go on sale, and are we in a real deep discount? Because if you're in a deep discount, they're going to buy your game. So be strategic about this. All-time lows are a very non-renewable resource. Okay, what they do now, when they're on the Steam page, they get buyer's fever. And so their finger's kind of hovering on the buy button. They're not sure if they're going to buy it, so they're looking again at your Steam page to see if they trust your game. And here's what they do. They look at a couple key things. They look at the developer and publisher to see if they remember them, if they've noticed them, or kind of identify the publisher. Of course, people are going to know Xbox Game Studios, but they want to see if they remember who you are. The other thing they look at is this kind of more from section. And again, they want to see, did they play another one of your games? So if your game's like in a series, multiple sequels, they want to see, wait, did I play this game? Was this part of something else? Remember on the video, she said, oh, it's from the Bear With Me people. She knew some of those folks. You're just building trust that you're going to stick around. You are a trustworthy developer. Now, what does this mean? Stay alive. Live to make more than one game. I know you're focused all on this game, but if you can't survive to your next one, or if your first one doesn't sell very well, it's okay. Your second one will have that boost of having more reputable coverage, because your other game is gonna show up in that more like. So it's kind of you're building that reputation. So please don't quit after your first game, even if it doesn't sell well. I know it's hard, but please do. Okay, so then they do this genre relevance evaluation. Back to the identification, what they'll do, you know how I said you got to match up just like a romance novel? They're looking for the genre to make sure. So what they do is they check this bar on the bottom right. That's a very important bar before they buy. They'll check this, and what they're doing is this top part where it says similar to games you've played. That helps them identify the genre. It's just like that guy that said, hey, this is like an FTL. If that game had an FTL in that icon, in that section, he'd be like, that is perfect. The other thing that they check, and this is super duper important, they look to see their friends recommended it or not. Because not only do they know the genres that they like, they know the genres of their friends and the friends that like certain genres. So if they see somebody that they trust who also likes the games they like recommending it, that is such a bonus. And if a friend recommends against it, but they know that that person has different tastes than them, they're like, oh, it's okay. He likes FPSs. I don't like FPSs. It's okay that he hates this game. Okay, so they found it. You're a trustworthy dev. What do? They add it to their cart. Do they buy it? Hell no. They still, after all of that, you are still not clear. This is the final part. How do you get out of the cart and into their library? because it turns out that your Steam cart is actually a secondary wish list. And so what they do is they'll actually stop and say, okay, I've loaded up my cart for the Steam sale. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to go check with my friends. I want to see what's going to happen here. And so what they do is they step away and they call all their friends and they say, I'm thinking of getting this game. I actually saw this happen. So one of the participants I was watching, she was considering Sundered. And what she did was she messaged her friend who also had a good review for Sundered. And she, in Discord, this is in Discord, she sent him a screenshot of Sundered and she said, hey, I'm thinking of buying this. And he said this, go for it. And then she bought it. Imagine that. All the marketing that had to be done for this to happen. Those 3 magic words, go for it. I don't know how we sell any games at all. This is how much it takes to get a game sold. And that comes to the next part, which is word of mouth. You need to turn your current customers, people who've already bought your game, into advocates for you. You need to be offering good support, be friendly. Don't just run once you have their money. It's ongoing because they're going to be recommending your game the next time there's a sale and somebody comes to them and says, hey, do you recommend this person's game? You better hope that they say yes. They better hope that they say go for it. Okay, second part, cart problems. This is kind of out of our hands, but it really matters here. Okay, we know when a Steam sale starts, they get this email that says you got a wish list on an item on sale. What are you going to do? This is a very powerful way of doing it. But guess what? They put the game, they may have put it in there. I got this comment from one of the participants that I was studying. I put Grim Dawn franchise in my cart, but forgot to actually purchase it. Major oof. My God, they didn't actually go back to their Steam page after their cart after they checked with all their friends. This is something in the online retail industry called abandoned cart recovery. When people abandon their cart, they need to be called back to say, hey, don't forget the sale's ending. Steam does not have abandoned cart recovery. Let me show you this. The worldwide, everything like Amazon, all online retailers estimate that it's like 75% of all people will have stuff left over their cart and never buy it. This article that I linked below actually said gaming's pretty safe with this. They only have a 64% abandon rate. Only 64% abandoned. Oh my God. But the good news is they found that if you engage in like email marketing and re-engage them and say, hey, by the way, sale's ending. You got some items left in the cart. Do you want it? They were able to recover almost 11% of people were to come back and actually finish the purchase. 11%. Now that doesn't sound like much, but if you go back to your Steam sale, go back to the last sale, take whatever you earned in that last Steam sale, multiply that by 10%, add that on, that's what you missed out because Steam does not have abandoned cart recovery. It is a big thing. Like it wouldn't be that much that you would need to do. Like if we just had an email that Steam would send out, like, let's say a day before the Steam sale ends and just says, hey, you've got something left in your cart. Do you want to pick up this game? It's almost there. That would be a total major oof avoided according to that user. They want this. They didn't want to miss out on that sale. Now, next time you have a meeting with Valve, if you've got one of those behind closed doors and they ask for suggestions, say, please implement an abandoned cart recovery email sequence. They're going to look at you sideways and say, a what? Explain it to them. Show them what an abandoned cart recovery email sequence is. Hopefully they implement it. We can't hope that. There's probably some technical reason they can't do it. I don't know. But the next best thing that we can do is plan a big marketing push at the end of a sale. Make sure that you re-up on your social media, your email list, say, hey, sale ends tomorrow. Don't forget to pick up. If you got something left in your cart, don't forget to buy it. It's all we got. We can only do so much. Bug Valve about it. Hopefully it fixes this. Okay, so part 5, how to turn those wish listers into actual buyers. Okay, so I published a lot of my findings that I just talked to you about on Gama Sutra, and I got a lot of comments, very good comments that said, well, the way you were doing the screen share and everything, you're probably influencing them. That's probably why people didn't buy as much as what you saw. And this is something called the Hawthorne effect, which is when somebody watches, a person being watched changes their behavior. And it dates back to the old factory days. They wanted to see if they lowered the lights, if it would increase or decrease productivity. But it was managers who were doing the observation. So of course you're going to work faster when your manager's watching you. That's besides the point, but this is how we're going to test this. And what I did was not another screen share for part 3 of this study. I did a diary study. And what a diary study is I took 7 of the participants, 2 of them, those are those orange people from the previous studies, and then I found 5 new people. And what I did was every week I sent a survey that had 2 questions. What did you buy last week and why? And what did you wish list last week? And how did you hear about it? That's all I asked them. I sent them in a Google form like this. And I sent it for 3 months, starting December 15th and ended just today, March 9th. So I would get these little stories back because they were like little diary entries. And they're almost like Hemingway-esque in their simplicity and their just earnestness. 7 Days to Die. This early access game has become a favorite of mine. This was the 11th copy that I purchased, this time as a Christmas gift for a friend. God, you better hope that you get this customer. She bought 11 copies of this game. Here's another one. Monopoly Plus. I saw it after looking up board games to play with my daughter in another state. It is a game that I have seen on sale for Humble Bundle. Man, that one gets me every time I read that one. So these are the type of comments that I got. Here's one for this one. Listen to this. Demon Crawl. Saw about it on Discord, and it looks like something I'd love to play. Will likely buy it before the end of the sale. Now, buy it before the end of the sale. Guess what I did? I waited till the end of the sale, well after it was over, and I emailed the guy and I said, hey, did you get Demon Crawl? Did you ever buy it? Nope. I ended up forgetting about it and realized too late, like a few hours after the sale ended. Abandoned cart. This is what I'm talking about. We got to get abandoned cart. Talk to Steam. Abandoned cart. Okay, so again, I did 3 months of surveys that turned out to be 13 surveys. I observed or got little messages about 229 wishlisted decisions, 278 buying decisions. That's 507 of those micro stories. So what I did is I went through and I tagged them based on what they said, whether they got it from Discord or Steam or a bundle, who told them about the game, all that stuff. Here's what I found. Here's the research. Okay, so the top list is all the participants, the 7 participants. Just underneath, I'm listing them in columns. So participant A bought 24 games between December 15th and March 9th. Participant D bought 86 games in that 3 months, all the way over to like participant O, who bought 62 games during that period. This is purchase. This is how many they wish listed. So A bought 27, O bought 32, reads like that. I'm going to break it down based on all the things they did. Again, these are only purchases and wish listed during that time period. Okay, what percentage based on Steam? Because some people played Switch games or they bought Xbox games. I included those in the survey and I tracked them. So how many of them included Steam games? It's a pretty high number, 42%, 53%, 76% of the games that were bought during this time period were for Steam. I counted anything that was Humble Bundle, even if they get a Steam key from Humble, as a separate thing, and I'll show that in a minute. You might notice participant L had 0 Steam games. He was boycotting Steam at the beginning, and I was like, I wonder if he's going to stick to his boycott. He did. He did not buy any Steam games during that 3-month period. So very good on him. Okay, so how many of these purchases were from Humble Bundle? Turns out a very high percentage of people get their games from Humble Bundle. So if you notice D and K, they have very large inventories of games that they purchased. That's because they're big buyers of Humble Bundle games. Fanatical Bundle was another bundle that a lot of people bought off of. Some people were not bundle buyers, like M&M. They just didn't get any bundles. Now let's check social media. So one of the questions, like, did you buy this game and why? If they said, oh, I bought it on Twitter, I saw somebody on Twitter tweet about the game, so I bought it. How many? Nobody. Nobody mentioned that they found a game based on Twitter. Let's talk about Discord. How many? One person heard about a game on Discord and then bought it. And then Reddit, one person. One person bought a game because they saw it on Reddit. Now, that's kind of strange, but if you remember, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, I always talk about that stuff. I always say nobody sees a game for the first time and then buys it. That's true, and that's what this study did. So I looked at the wish list. I looked at top of the funnel. How many people wish listed a game and claimed that they wish listed because of Twitter? So same thing. Let's see, 3 people. 3 people said they saw a game on Twitter, and so they wish listed it. Discord, a little bit higher, 6 people. And then Reddit, 12. Now, participant D loves Reddit. So he's a very heavy Reddit user, but he was the only one. And side note, I've found a lot of these people on Reddit. They just don't shop for games on Reddit. Okay, what about streamers? How many people buy games because of streamers? So let's look at wish lists. So because of what they saw on Steam, like a streamer do it, about that's not great, but it's something. How many purchases based on what they saw on a streamer? Not many. 3 people see it on purchase. Really, it's a wish list to purchase conversion. Now, I think part of it might be that they wish listed it a long time ago. So if they made, in my data, they didn't actually say that they bought it because of watching somebody on YouTube. but I really think wish lists don't straight convert to purchases based on streamers. Okay, now I've mentioned friends all the time. These are kind of what, if anybody tagged a friend, if they said, hey, I have friends who play this, so I bought it because of that, I did that. I also counted if they bought a game for a friend, this will be it. If they were gifted a game, that I tagged that as a friend buy. So how many games did they buy because of a friend recommendation? Let's see. A pretty high amount. Some of these participants like L and M, 50% of their games came from friend recommendations. Friends are very, very important in buying games. What about wish lists? Just as high, a third in some cases. Now you might notice participant D does not actually have any friends. No, he has friends. I actually asked him, I was like, you okay? Do you have friends? He does, he just doesn't have gamer friends. All his friends do other activities. Who knows what they do, but they don't play games together. Okay, how many gamers, how many of these participants bought games at full price? 0. 0 people bought games at full price. Isn't that astounding? These people wait for sales. I know it's not a surprise, but my God, looking at all those zeros, there's a surprise. Okay, so what gets people from wish list to purchase? How do they actually do it? I got one of these comments because I'm always wondering, like, how do I convert somebody from being wish listing it to actually buying it? And here's this guy. He said, Stardew Valley. Was tempted, but I have some unfinished business with one of my Harvest Moon games on Wii. We'll finish that first before buying Stardew Valley. What? Like, we have to now compete with Wii. Like, who knows why people buy games? There's no reason. We just have to basically keep pushing on it, keep pushing on it. You just have to market all the time because who knows when somebody's going to finish that Wii game. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So games have a long life cycle. Stay alive, just whatever may occur. Okay, so what actually moved the needle after doing all this research? Okay, bundles were the highest percentage that converted to actually purchasing something. Next down was friends. Now, bundles, we get like fractions of a cent in some of those bundles, so it doesn't quite count. So the number one thing is friends. Now, full price purchases were 0, which means sales actually drive a lot, but I can't quite identify like how many sales came from not being mentioned on friends and bundles. It's kind of like asking somebody, or asking a fish about water. They don't even notice it. A lot of these participants wish list and things and bought things just because they were on the Steam front page and all that kind of stuff. So I think those are the major drivers, but the things we can kind of control are purchases because of friends and getting your game in bundles. So here's kind of the top recommendations based on the second round of research. Make a really good game that people recommend. Stars around that, that's the most important thing. People aren't gonna recommend your game if it isn't good. That's why we say start with a good game to market. Okay, develop a plan for word of mouth marketing. We gotta invest in how we get our games shareable, not through social media, because apparently they don't do it through social media. Just make sure that friends know, maybe bundle 2 keys so that somebody will give a key to a friend, who knows? But think of ways to do word of mouth marketing. Put your game on sale a lot. We know that people only buy it on sale. I told you that when the frequent sales happen, your game is more front of mind. And eventually put it in a bundle, maybe a windowing system. Eventually it'll end up in a bundle because that really does drive people to buy your game. And I guess just wait for people to finish all their games on Wii. Who knows? I don't know. Okay, wrap it up. Let's do this. I keep all this research while I was doing it. I kept thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna have to present this to a bunch of indies. I'm gonna have to tell them to like put their game on sale a lot. I'm gonna have to tell them to stick to genres. Don't be too crazy. Don't have too many hooks. Don't be too out there. Just stick to genre conventions. Like I keep thinking of that guy. Like why even be indie anymore? And it's true. Like I wonder about this. But here's the thing. This is kind of what I came around to. Your Steam page, we saw with that woman who went through the Steam page, it lasts 90 seconds. They shop for 90 seconds on your store page. They are going to forget your store page by the end of it, but your game will live on. So this Steam, you can be cheesy and trite on your Steam page. That's not your art. Your Steam page is not your art. And a key thing, I kind of realized this when I heard about this. So this is Marcel Proust, famous 20th century author, one of the greatest thinkers we've got in the 20th century. It turns out, here he is, his first book was something called Remembrance of Things Past, right? Smart guy. Okay. For Marcel Proust, Le Figaro was the front page. This is his Steam page equivalent. Like if you wanted to sell 20th century literature to Frenchmen, this is where you put it. And he got a bunch of front page reviews for his Remembrance of Things Past, right? Well, they recently had an auction for some of Proust's old letters, and they were going through his letters, and they found out that Proust actually paid people the equivalent of $900 in today's dollars to write favorable reviews for him on the front page of this Le Figaro. Now, I'm not Steam. I'm not telling them to buy reviews. I'm not. If you're Steam, don't kick my games off Steam. What I'm actually saying is he hustled. He hustled. And he knew that sometimes you have to really change your policies in order to get your art seen. And really what Marcel Proust kind of did was, we don't remember it. It wasn't until we dug deep into his letters that we found out that his page was trite and that his items were bought. We remember his art, not what he did on Le Figaro. Nobody remembers what he did on Le Figaro. So what I'm saying is, just get that hustle, do it. So he actually got his friend who painted this portrait, name listed off to the left so I don't butcher the French. He got him to write one of the reviews. So use your resources, don't cheat the system, don't buy reviews, but your store page is not your art. Separate those two. Please, your page is not your art. Be a little bit cliche. Okay, I called this talk Empathize with Steam because, I don't know, we look at all these sales charts, we look at these number of reviews, and we just hate these people that just say nope. And we kind of hate Steam. But after watching this and reading stuff like this, person who wanted to play games with her daughter in another state, I don't know, I kind of got this feeling. There's this feeling called Sonder, which is basically that says every random passerby actually has a full life. And I thought about that when I did this research, is every negative review, they're probably having a bad day or something. And all those upvotes are probably from somebody else who's also having a bad day. And so what I'm telling you is, if you kind of feel down about doing this stuff, go do what I did. Talk to Steam people, not the crazy ones, not the mean ones, but find people and talk to them. And don't just treat them like a number, like, oh, this many upvotes, this many downvotes. Really learn your audience. And I think it's going to be a real positive feeling for you. So please do it. Again, if you want that Steam checklist, go to my website, howtomarketagame.com/Steam checklist. I'll send you a free version of that if you sign up for my newsletter. If you have questions, this is a weird GDC this year, so I'll answer them on Twitter. Please do it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming out. I love you all. Have a good day. Finn.
We love you too, Chris. Coming up, we have Scaling to 10 Concurrent Users, Online Infrastructure as an Indie from Andrew Arridge. We're only about 3 minutes away from that talk, so I'm just going to go ahead and run a quick message from our friends at IM8bit, and then we'll be back in just a couple minutes.